What's up, everyone? Welcome on in to another episode of DJ MMA. Today, we'll be going over some early looks for UFC 284 this Saturday night down in Perth. Of course, Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski is the main event. We'll also talk about what went down at UFC Fight Night this past weekend real briefly, and a couple of other things in the world of the UFC. First, real quick, though, I just wanted to say thank you again to all the listeners out there for checking out the show, whether you're a first-time listener or if you're someone who's been kind of following along through our first few shows. We really appreciate all the support. If you could help us out and do us a quick favor, go and hit the like button down below, subscribe to the YouTube channel and all that good stuff, because we're really trying to grow this thing here in 2023, so we greatly appreciate all of the help. Also, make sure to comment down below your picks for UFC 284. If you're thinking differently than we are, or if we're on the same page, make sure to let us know in the comment section down below. We want to interact with all the fans out there and see what everyone else is thinking ahead of this event. But with that being said, as always, I'm Jack Bushman here with the man himself, DJ Postilion. DJ, we got another big one coming up this Saturday night down in Perth. How we feeling ahead of the second pay-per-view of 2023, brother?
I'm pumped. Champ versus champ fight. What's more to ask for? But yeah, I feel like they're kind of like not promoting this thing that well. I know Islam said something about it this week, but yeah, no, I feel like no one's talking about it. Dana forgot Islam's name at the post-fight press conference on Saturday night, so I don't even know if he's excited about it. But yeah, he forgot Islam's name, but he didn't forget Volkanovski's name. So I think that's telling you something about Islam and his relationship with Dana. But yeah, no, I'm super pumped for this card. It's a really top-heavy card, like you said earlier. I think those like top three fights are fights to watch. But other than that, the card's kind of poo-poo. But it's all right. I'm excited for a pay-per-view that I can illegally stream once again. So yeah, no, I'm pretty pumped.
Fingers crossed that the stream does us well. But it's funny that you mentioned that, DJ. I was actually hanging out with one of my buddies a few days ago, and he brought that up to me. Like, feels like the UFC really isn't pushing UFC 284 when you have number one versus number two in the pound-for-pound rankings, champ versus champ. Yeah. Arguably the biggest matchup, maybe this is an overstatement, but arguably the biggest matchup in the UFC ever. I mean, I don't know if that's happened before, number one versus number two in pound versus pound. And they really, it just feels like it hasn't been pushed out there all that much. Now, I get it's Super Bowl weekend and there's, you know, some other things that people are focused on, but still, this is for the UFC and for Dana White to not act like this is their baby. I know they got a lot of big fights coming up on the schedule, and we'll actually talk more on that here in just a second. But yeah, it feels disappointing to have two guys of the caliber of Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski, the two best in the sport right now, I would think, fighting each other, and I feel like most of the world's probably unaware. So yeah, a little bit disappointing. I would agree that they haven't gotten it out to the public as well as I think they could have. And I did see that clip of Dana White forgetting Islam's name, and I mean, come on, buddy. He's kind of not the face of the UFC, but
he will be
a rising star that's taken everyone by grasp. I mean, he's almost a minus 400 favorite over Alexander Volkanovski, and you forget the dude's name. It's just kind of a microcosm of the UFC just being absolutely terrible while also being an incredible sport at the same time. It's
the story of the UFC this year. It's just been nothing but trash president, trash allegations, all this stuff going on, and still a great product.
And it's a shame because, DJ, UFC 284 this Saturday is really the start of pay-per-view mayhem for the UFC early on here in 2023. It is absolutely incredible. It feels like we have big fight after big fight every pay-per-view. And we thought it would be kind of cool to talk about each of our top 5 fights that we're looking forward to here in the next couple of months. There's a lot of big ones. John Jones. We just heard recently that Conor McGregor is going to be coming back to fight Michael Chandler. We have Leon versus Usman 3. We have Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya 2. Fiziev and Gaethje, Sandhagen, Cheeto Vera. Goodness gracious, DJ. It is a great time to be a fan of the UFC, and somehow they continuously punish us outside of the octagon. Yeah, right. So let's get into our top 5 fights that we're looking forward to here in the next couple of months. You can start us off, my man.
Yeah, no, my number one is definitely going to be John Jones' return. Obviously, I'm the biggest John Jones dick rider out of all of them. I love that man with all my heart. I emailed him one time trying to be his personal chauffeur. Didn't get a response, but it's okay. It's okay. So we're going to do John Jones versus Gans, my number one. Number two, definitely going to be the return of the almighty Conor McGregor versus Iron Mike Chandler, which is going to be a phenomenal fight. I can't wait to watch that fight. I'm really intrigued to see if Chandler decides to actually use his wrestling that we know that he has, that he can utilize very well in that fight, especially in a fight with Conor too, who's not, the most grappling savvy guy in the world. No, I'm super pumped for that fight. That fight's going to be absolutely nuts. That first round's going to be insane. I don't think it reaches the distance, especially in a 5-round fight. No way. I don't think that fight gets out of 2 or 3. So that's going to be a banger. Number 3, definitely got Justin and Fiziev. I think that is just a striker's delight. I'm really sad that it's not like a fight night main event because I would love to see those guys go for 5 rounds, but 3 rounds is plenty for me. I feel like that fight's going to be a lot on the adrenaline and your heart, and being able to make it through that's going to be something special. So I'm really pumped for that one. 4 will be Izzy and Pereira, the rematch. Well, the 4th fight, I should say, but I'm super pumped for that. I think Izzy's going to use his wrestling a little bit more. Obviously that kind of worked in his game plan in the first time they fought in MMA. So I'm pretty excited for that fight. I think the stoppage kind of was a little early too. I know Izzy's coaches came out and said it wasn't, but I think it was an early stoppage. So that's definitely going to be my number 4. And then obviously number 5 will be Usman versus Leon Edwards. I've been rewatching that fight over and over again, just trying to see if there's any way I can take a shot at Leon, but unfortunately, I think Usman's going to win that fight. I do think it's going to be a little bit of a different fight, not fighting at elevation like that in Salt Lake City the first time around. So I know Leon kind of got burnt out real early there. So I don't know. I think Leon does have a better chance of winning this fight than the first fight, but I still ultimately at the end of the day, I kind of think Usman's kind of take him down and work him there. But yeah, that's my list.
Usman, I got it. How can you bet against Kamaru Usman now with a chip on his shoulder after really working Leon Edwards? In my opinion, for 3 rounds, you texted me over the weekend that you thought Leon won the 2nd round.
I think he won.
I disagree with you. Either way, there's no doubt that as the fight progressed, Kamaru Usman round 3 and round 4 especially was dominant. Would have you think he's still going to have a grappling advantage if he can dodge one head kick. Odds are that he's probably going to be the champ again, but you never know. That's what makes the UFC so great. And Leon Edwards was down and out, down 3-1. Go ahead.
Yeah, I read a stat, I think it was probably 6 months ago. It's been a while, but it was in UFC rematches, the person that won the first time wins the second time 71% of the time or something like that. So
very interesting.
It's an interesting stat. Yeah.
One thing to note when we do see the final lines come out as we get closer to that one, as far as my top fights that I'm looking forward to, number 1, I agree, John Jones versus Ciryl Gane. I just think that is the toughest possible matchup for John Jones to come back to. A guy in Ciryl Gane who moves like a middleweight. I mean, he dances out there. He's got some great kicks. Had an incredible performance against Tai Tuivasa to really show he's the complete package, and was also, up 2-0 against Francis Ngannou before losing the final 3 rounds. Was really close to being champion of the world over a year ago now. So you got to think he's only getting better. He's still kind of young in the game. So I'm really intrigued to see how John's going to handle that matchup. I have that at number 1. I also have Michael Chandler, a fellow Mizzou boy, going up against Conor McGregor. Really intrigued to see now that Michael Chandler has gotten himself this fight. He's kind of fought like an idiot, I think, to get here. I think he's kind of gone the money route instead of trying to win fights. Now, we did see him actually use his wrestling in that 2nd round against Dustin Poirier. I think if he goes that route against Conor McGregor, it's a pretty easier path to victory for him. So I'm very curious to see if Chandler's going to go that route. 3, I have Chito Vera versus Corey Sandhagen. That's going to be an absolute banger. And I love both of those guys. I really don't know how I could bet against either one of them. I feel like I want to have money on that fight, DJ, because it's going to be so awesome, but I'm scared to bet against either one of those guys. So really interested to see how that's going to play out. Another striker's banger, as you called it, is number 4 for me, Fiziev and Justin Gaethje. Oh my gosh, that's a really tough matchup for Justin Gaethje. I love the way that he fights. if there's one guy you may not want to do that with in that division, it's Rafael Fiziev. So that's going to be a banger. Number 5 for me hasn't been a confirmed fight, but I think Sergey Pavlovich versus Curtis Blades would just be an incredibly intriguing fight. Pavlovich has been running through everyone in the heavyweight division. Curtis Blades is obviously the supreme wrestler at the heavyweight weight class. So we haven't seen Pavlovich really be up against a wrestler. There's really no one else like Curtis Blades in that division. So if he gets faced with obviously a guy who has the advantage in the ground game, how is he going to fare against that? But there's so many intriguing fights, DJ, that are coming up on the UFC schedule. A lot of honorable mentions that are on that list as well. That I think Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen is an absolute bopper as well. I think that could be just an incredible co-main event potentially. There's a lot of good fights coming up, and one of them happens to be this Saturday night, UFC 284 down in Perth. Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski. Already said earlier, number 1 versus number 2 in the pound for pound rankings. Couple of other intriguing fights on that card. Before we get into the main card, or is there anything you're kind of looking at so far here early on in the week on the prelims that could be part of a card or that we could have any action on whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, I like the Zubaira fight a lot, but I don't like that line. Obviously, Khabib's one of Khabib's teammates, Zubaira, and Islam's teammate. But yeah, no, he's had some lackluster performances kind of as of late. I know he had a big statement in his last fight, but prior to that, he was kind of looking pretty lackluster for a Khabib cousin or whatever kind of relationship he has with Khabib. Yeah, so I have my eyes on that, but it's at like minus 500 now, which is getting kind of crazy. So that's something that I'm definitely going to have to parlay down. I like parlaying with Islam a little bit, but he's also 400 too, so doesn't get it down that much. I like Luma, the girl, the little short. She's from Thailand, I think.
I gotta hear you try to pronounce that last name.
Luma, it's like Lumbokan or something.
Look Boonmi?
Look boom. Dude,
so many vowels. So many fucking vowels.
I'm so bad at pronouncing names.
Double O, E in one last name.
She is a little like tank. She reminds me of kind of like a Zhang Wei Li that would just only stand. Her kicks are nuts. Her deep kicks are insane. Her elbows are nuts. And she's versing a girl that honestly doesn't have many fights. But so Luma doesn't either, but she's got a lot of Muay Thai fights. She's got a Muay Thai background where she's had a ton of fights in her career so far. So I like her a lot. She's like minus 290 or something right now. So, I mean, that's like the only thing I can really think of. Other than that, I see a lot of dogs with some potential. I don't know if I can take a stab at any of them yet. I got to do some more research going on there. But there's going to be a lot of dogs winning on this card. I can guarantee you that. Just looking at the landscape right now, there's going to be a lot of upsets this weekend.
So we've kind of talked prior to recording the show. DJ knows how I feel about 3-leg parlays in the UFC. They're so goddamn hard. Getting 3 fights right, getting one, let alone one in itself. Right. I'm happy when I hit an outright just by itself. Yeah. Getting 3 fights correctly in the UFC is very complicated, but DJ, you did toss out the possibility of a Zubaira, Islam, Team Khabib, even though we'll touch on this in a second. He's not going to be there. Parlaying them with Loma?
Yeah, Loma. I Loma. She's a little fucking bull. I love that chick.
I love it. If you parlay all of those right now on DraftKings Sportsbook, that 3-leg parlay comes out to plus 107. So it's some pretty decent odds for 3, good size favorites here. Yeah. Personally, anytime you have someone who's trained with Khabib, I like to have money on him. It just usually works out pretty well for the most part. That guy kind of knows stuff. So there is some potential there. I'm going to do some more research to let you know how I feel about it. Not the biggest fan of 3-leg parlays, but we'll see how the card ends up. That's definitely something that is intriguing. DJ, you just referenced that you think a lot of dogs are going to be winning on the card this weekend. One of them I know that you think has some interest. One of the final 3 fights, we've talked how this is kind of a top-heavy card. The last 3 fights of UFC 284 are probably going to be what everyone pays attention to and remembers from this event. You believe Randy Brown has some potential there at plus 260. I don't know if I don't think we're going to place a wager on it officially, But I have kind of talked to you in the last week about this as a fan of Jack Della Maddalena. You've been talking about Randy Brown. Why do you think he's kind of got some potential there at plus 260?
Yeah, I just think his experience. I mean, he's only lost to the best of the best. I think he lost to Vicente Luque. He lost to Bilal. And he lost to Nico Price in his UFC career so far. So those are three pretty tough guys, especially Nico Price being so big for the weight class. That dude's massive. I don't know how he cuts down to 170, but Randy Brown's really good at moving. And I think Jack has faced a lot of stationary targets in his career so far. A lot of the people's records, if you look deep into the kind of the records of the guys he's faced, they're really not that impressive at all. I think on his UFC debut, he fought a guy who was 4-0 who ended up, beating Mike Jackson, who fought CM Punk. So like these guys aren't really, fighting really high caliber level opponents. But yeah, I think Randy Brown's going to move too much. I think it's going to be a lot closer fight than the odds say. It's definitely something that I'm thinking about throwing like a half unit on just to, have some action on it too to begin with. But yeah, I think he's going to move around a little bit too much. He looked really good against Francisco Trinaldo. He looked really good against Chaos Williams. I don't know how that was a split decision. I looked back on that and I was like, that was a split decision. I thought Randy Brown kind of like Floyd Mayweathered him that whole fight. He's really good at not getting hit. So that's the only reason I kind of like leaning towards a little bit of Randy Brown, just because those odds say that that Jack Mandela is or whatever his fucking name is going to win like 8 out of 10 times, or 8 or 9 out of 10 times. I don't think so. So yeah, I think Randy Brown does have a good shot of winning this fight. I think it's gonna be a lot closer than people think. Yeah,
to be fair, as a fan of Jack Della Maddalena, Randy Brown, that fight against, you got to get that name down. It's a good one. Jack Della Maddalena.
That's a tongue twister for me.
That is. It's a good one though. That fight that Randy Brown had against Chaos Williams, we had money on Chaos Williams that night, and Randy Brown was ducking. Full on like primetime Anderson Silva, like you can't fucking touch me. He was in beast mode. And I do think Jack has certainly not seen an opponent of that caliber yet. We know he's got the knockout power, but can he find the target? That's going to be the challenge with fighting a guy who is shifty like Randy Rude Boy Brown. So I do think that's going to be intriguing. We'll see if we wind up throwing any action on it, just because it should be, as you referenced, a closer fight than the odds may suggest. Before we get into the main event, let's talk about another interim title fight that's kind of no one really has been. I mean, if no one's talking about Islam Makhachev versus Alexander Volkanovski, no one's going to be talking. Really, no one's going to be talking about.
I forgot this fight was this weekend.
For real. Yair Rodriguez, currently the minus 165 favorite over at DraftKings against Josh Emmett, plus 140. I think this is a really good, interesting matchup. Josh Emmett, it feels like that's a pretty good number to take him at. Where are you thinking this fight's going to go? I honestly, I have no idea.
I really don't either, to be honest. I've seen Josh Emmett struggle with people that kick a little bit. So that's the thing. I mean, Shane Burgos was able to kind of fuck up his leg a little bit too in their fight. But Josh Emmett's just so good at coming back. Like he wins the final rounds of every single fight that he's in. And Yair is a guy that has gassed out in his career before, a couple times. The Max Holloway fight, he was pretty tired. And then also in the Korean Zombie fight where he threw that crazy elbow to end it, he was pretty tired in that fight too. So, I mean, 5 rounds, I think, favors Josh Emmett a lot here. But at the same time, earlier on in Josh Emmett's career, I've seen him gas out too before. So I think it's pace. This fight's all dictated by pace and distance. Obviously, Yair needs to, keep the distance for the remainder of the fight or however long it lasts. But I don't know. This one's a toss-up for me. But I think kind of one of these situations, you kind of go with the underdog here. So I'm thinking Josh Emmett possibly. I don't know. It's a really close fight. I really don't know who's going to win this one.
Yeah, I agree. When it's this close of a matchup, it's like Josh Emmett at plus 140. I mean, feels like a
pretty cater. Like
he did. It was close. I will say that. We had, Calvin. We had Calvin in his fight against Arnold Allen, where he unfortunately tore his ACL. Tough card for the boys, by the way.
But if you think about it, like nowadays, like judging, I feel like has changed over the last couple of years, and they really like favor damage, and he's going to land the more damaging shots. The dude's a bull. Like he's going to throw the harder punches. He's going to land the harder shots. I think kind of Yair's thing is probably throwing a lot of volume, like a lot of kicks. But yeah, no, I don't really know.
Yeah, that fight's going to be a toss up. It's going to be interesting to see. One of the few good fights on this card. And that takes us now to the bread and butter of UFC 284. For the people out there that do actually know that this is happening on Saturday night, Alexander Volkanovski currently listed as the plus 300 underdog against Islam Makhachev, minus 365, at DraftKings Sportsbook. I've seen him closer to minus 400 at other places.
Oh, it went down minus 365 right now?
It's minus 365 on DraftKings. I was just looking at FanDuel prior to recording this, and I think I actually have FanDuel's odds here along the bottom. We're not currently at Islam yet, but I think he was minus 400 maybe on there. So kind of depends where you're looking at, and that's why you should shop around and try to get the best odds, because different books have different prices, and you want to capitalize.
That's kind of crazy how different that is, isn't it? Like minus 365
and minus 400. Yeah, that's a pretty sizable gap.
That's a big deal.
I mean, if you're going to take that 3-leg parlay, it's unfortunate. We kind of feel like we have some more research to do, but getting Islam at minus 365 will probably be what's keeping that bet at plus 107 right now. If you had it at minus 400 on DraftKings, I don't know if that's even, see, look at the bottom, Islam minus 400. That's what he was listed at on FanDuel. So prime example of why you should shop around books when it comes to betting on UFC or betting on anything, honestly. But DJ, talk to me your thoughts about this matchup between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. I know you've got a couple of official plays that you already like, and then as we mentioned earlier, we might have Islam as part of a parlay or something else along those lines. We'll be sure to get that out to all you listeners out there by Thursday afternoon at the latest. But yeah, DJ, tell me what you think about this matchup between number 1 and number 2 in the pound-for-pound rankings as Volkanovski goes up to 155.
Yeah, no, I think this fight's gonna be a lot closer than the odds suggest too as well. I do think Islam's ultimately gonna win, whether if he gets it to the ground or even if he stays standing. I think he can, keep range and utilize his striking. But Volk's obviously best chances on the feet. So I do think with what Islam's saying throughout the week that he kind of wants to use his hands a little bit more, keep it standing. And to me, that just equals time. So my plays for this week are round props. So I have the fight starting round 3, I have the fight starting round 4, and I have the fight starting round 5. Those are all official plays on FanDuel. I bet it on probably last month as soon as the lines dropped, because I was just like, I can't believe people think Islam's going to get him out of there within 2 rounds. I thought that was kind of crazy. So I threw a unit on, or a half unit on round 3, round 4, and round 5 to start. And then I also took Islam to win in either round 4, 5, or by decision at plus 180. I just checked this morning. It's at plus 150 now. So people are betting that line pretty heavily. So I do think that's something to look at if you want to jump in on it. I would do it now rather than later. I do think this fight's going to kind of play out for 5 rounds. I don't think anyone's going to finish each other. I think this is going to be a really competitive fight, but I think towards the later rounds, I think Islam's grappling is just probably going to be a little too much.
Muted. I just noticed that.
Yeah,
I was drinking water, so I tried to do the courtesy of muting my mic, and then I forgot. Classic. But DJ, I was saying, what'd you get those? I don't know if you have it pulled up, but what'd you get those to start round 3, round 4, and round 5? Because I'm looking right now at DraftKings, and I know you mentioned you had gotten this quite a little bit ago.
Yeah, I can actually tell you what date too. So I took this kind of a while back. Give me a sec. I have to, of course, type in my password because this thing's so protective. Okay, let's scroll down because I have quite a lot of open bets right now. Fight to start round 3. I placed this bet on January 14th, and I got it at minus 182. Fight to start round 4, I got it at minus 112. And then fight to start round 5, I got it at plus 118.
Seems like a very smart move by you. Fight to start round 3 right now on DraftKings, minus 200. Fight to start round 4, minus 135. And fight to start round 5 is even money, plus 100. So
let's go.
Seems like people have been taking that over the last couple of weeks that have jumped the lines down. But yeah, I do think that Islam just has the clearer paths to victory. You never know what's going to happen in a fight like this, but I do think Islam is just superior, certainly in the grappling department. We've really seen the improvement. I wouldn't say the improvements, but it's almost been like a coming out party for him on the feet in his past couple fights as well, to show that he's this well-rounded of a fighter. So I do think that he can match up with Volkanovski in all areas, and he's just bigger. Like, pretty substantially bigger. And I know Volkanovski has always kind of been the smaller guy, the underdog per se. But going up to 155, it's just going to be going up to 155 to fight Islam Makhachev of all people. Like, wow, that's certainly going to be a really big test for Volk. So I think it's hard not to go with Islam. I do really like your thinking behind this fight, because Alexander Volkanovski, you cannot discredit him. While I'm saying I favor Islam Makhachev in all these areas, there's one guy to prove you wrong. I mean, don't doubt Alexander the Great.
He's so tough. He'll hang in there. We all know he will.
Right? I still can't believe the 2 submissions that he got out of against Ortega. Now, I don't know if he can do that against Volkanovski, but just the ability, let alone to show that he can get out of situations like that and then still go put on a clinic, it's pretty crazy. So I do like the thought process behind this fight going later on. As I texted you earlier today, though, it's just undoubtedly scary knowing how good. I mean, I can't really say you've been behind the Islam hype train for years and years now. And we've been talking about how this guy was going to be the future of the UFC. Now he's really done it. He got through Charles Oliveira in less than 3 rounds. I know, not comparing Oliveira to Volkanovski, but still, to do that, I mean, pretty insane. So I am a little scared about, wanting Islam and this fight to go on a little bit later, but it does make a lot of sense at the end of the day. And seems like the public certainly agrees with you, DJ, considering the odds have all swelled in the opposite direction since you took it a month ago. So I'm feeling good about where we're at. I think we're on the same page. Still some more research to come here in the next couple of days before we finalize our card, but I like where we're at right now, DJ, and I'm really stoked, man. This, as we mentioned earlier, the start of a really awesome stretch for the UFC, and I couldn't be more excited, bro.
Yeah, honestly, this next couple months, especially March. March is going to be absolutely fucking insane. There's 3 pay-per-views within a month. I think there's one on March 4th or something around there. March 4th. There's one March 18th, and then there's one like the first week of April. April 8th is the Jorge and Gilbert Burns card. God, that's insane. Like, think about, like, when have we ever had 3 pay-per-views in a month? Like, I know that UFC ain't getting any of my money, but I mean, that they're gonna be making a ton of money in the month of March.
Yeah, and it's gonna be awesome to watch. I'm really stoked, and hopefully we can win some money along with it. But with that being said, DJ, I think that's time to wrap up this preview episode ahead of UFC 284. Just want to say thanks again to everyone out there for following along. We greatly appreciate all your help, and make sure to do us one last favor. Go and hit the like button down below. Comment your picks or what you're thinking for UFC 284, and also make sure to go and subscribe to the channel so you can get some more DJ MMA content. We're really trying to grow this thing in 2023. We had a lot of success betting in 2022, knock on wood. Hopefully we can keep that going here, DJ. But as I mentioned earlier, we'll have another show coming out on Thursday with our finalized picks. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And until then, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. We'll see you next time.